Yes, and the next issue of the newsletter is going to be about becoming your own primary healthcare provider. If you look at some of the latest statistics in the country, they're talking about somewhere between 250 and 500,000 people a year dying from treatment in America. That's a lot of people. And you never hear anything about it, but do the research, and there it is, admitted right up front. And what that says to me is that, and this has been a long-held belief of mine, that it just becomes more and more important, I think, is that we need to understand what's going on with our physiology on a level where we need to know for ourselves when and what treatment is needed and what isn't. And so in order to do that, you've got to ultimately have enough knowledge to be your own primary, and I mean your own healthcare provider. If you need support for certain things, get it for sure. Make sure that you know that you're getting what you really need. And many people don't understand that there's a big difference between treatment and healing. They're two totally, completely different fields. Healing doesn't kill people. Treatment often does. So that's what our next newsletter will be about. And I apologize for running late. I came up here just 20 minutes ago to put my hand in the Avicen and take a few minutes before the show started. I've been out working in the garden, kind of running at it and getting it done, and I just zonked out, went to sleep. Didn't even hear the alarm. So my apology, and glad to be here. Glad you're here. Delighted to be part of a conversation that creates this record of information in particular about first century Aramaic forgiveness, and tying that in with, of course, A Course in Miracles and a whole series of understandings about what it is that this human organism, this human being that we are, this awesome life that we've been given. It's interesting to hear so many people who whine and cry and complain, and my God, you've got a human life. What are you complaining about? If one has no idea that the burdens carried in the mind are removable, and that the truth of who we are as human beings is love. If you've been tricked by a culture into thinking love has got something to do with sexual athletics, or it's got something to do with putting your head on a chopping block and sacrificing yourself for others, then you bought into some lies. And by and large, when you realize, just sit in front of a television set for an hour. Spend no more than 3 minutes on any channel. Just flip from channel to channel to channel, 3 minutes at a time. And have a piece of paper in front of you. And every time you hear a word that's related to hostility, fear, grief, rage, pain, drama, and trauma, put a check mark on the page. Every time you hear a word that truly represents human life as love and living as that, put a check mark on the page. You can see how heavily weighted the brainwash is toward hostility and fear. I was talking yesterday about the point where they shifted over from analog to digital broadcasting. And, you think of television as it's a private sort of thing, and it's private business. Everybody does their thing, whether they want it or not. But back then when they made that switch, because many televisions did not have the ability to decode a digital signal, and the government stepped up to the plate and bought people converters so they could stay hooked on the TV. And when you think about that, that's pretty bizarre. And you look at the brainwashing that's done by that television set, by the media in general, it's pretty amazing. So what we're looking to do is to provide people the tools with which to understand when and if they've been brainwashed, and how to undo that brainwash primarily through the idea of forgiveness, which is the idea of removal. To remove from your structure those energetic patterns that never belonged in a human structure. And there are two directions that you come to that from. One is a la first century Aramaic forgiveness, the removal of what never belonged from your structure, fear, rage, guilt, grief, pain, drama, trauma, what have you. Victimhood, whining, complaining. And that's one direction. And I'm realizing more and more, especially as I observe, we've talked several times about the Avicen operation, I'm realizing that there's mental, emotional forgiveness that creates physiological changes, but if one has been locked into physiological changes via the brainwash of the culture, hostility and fear, that the lockdown of physiology that occurs at the chronic state of fight, flight, freeze, fear, fawning, the chronic state of that creates a chronic physical condition on the level of energy where we think of physical, creates a congestive type of thing that requires a different kind of forgiveness. And that is something that can open the pathways that have been chronically shut down through sympathetic dominance, through that fight, flight, fear, freeze, fawning mode. That the other end of the spectrum has to occur. The thing has to happen to vitalize and move through the physiological congestion of those chronic conditions in order to complete the process. If people simply do it from the physical, the mind doesn't change. If people simply do it from the mental, the physical doesn't go through the changes that it needs to do the whole job. It literally takes coming from both directions. It's really important to do both. And of course, there are many ways that you can get the kind of energy moving on a physical level that opens circulation sufficiently that if it's been chronically restricted and therefore congested, you can spend, 40 minutes in a nice hot bath or a sauna. You go to the Norwegian countries and the sauna is the key, and there's some pretty powerful health benefits there. You can get some of those benefits by sitting in a hot bath or doing a sauna, especially an infrared sauna. You can go out and run a couple of miles and get the same physiological impact. You increase the temperature of the blood, tends to open and clean out microcirculation. Unfortunately, running 2 or 3 miles, sitting in a hot bath, a sauna, or a hot tub, very messy. And you're certainly not going to do it 3, 4, or 5 times a day if your physiological condition is one of chronic shutdown. Compliance factor is very low with that sort of thing. And there's where the Avicen comes in. The compliance factor is easy. It's actually quite enjoyable. And I have my hand in it right now. Every day when I do the show, you might hear there's a slight motor sound running in the background. Every day when I do the show, that's where my hand is. And I'm being medically treated with a device that, over the years of working with it now, it's been about 2.5 years, I've never had any kind of medical treatment that people say, I love the side effects of my medical treatment. I've never known of anyone to do so, because most medical treatment involves toxicity, involves poisons, involves creating diseases via treatment. That's why somewhere between 250 and 500,000 deaths a year in America happen as a result of treatment. admitted deaths now. How many are not admitted? How many are not put down in the death certificate that way? I don't know, but it's more than we want to think about. And so when the power of the avicen is that where there has been chronic shutdown in order to protect, in order to be in that fear, fright, flight, which is called sympathetic dominance mode, the avicen versus that on a physiological level. And someone who's been chronically, the person who's in fear and hostility and or under stress. And it's gone on, in many cases, the state of sympathetic dominance occurred in utero as the child in utero heard mom and dad raging, fighting, and went through it as a child and came up and had all the habits and passed it on. To overcome that is a major, major piece of work. And for years we've been providing the mental emotional tools a la first century Aramaic Yeshua, especially with that monumental forgiveness tool, but the thing that's needed is the physical aspect of forgiveness. I'm realizing more and more. I've watched people do the mental emotional work and make a certain amount of progress. I've watched people do the physical aspect and make a certain amount of progress. But if one or the other is ignored, if one or the other isn't taken care of, then the job never gets done. So that's what's on my mind today. I'm, as I say, that the newsletter will be about becoming your own primary health care provider, that you educate yourself sufficiently to know what you need and where to best get it, and be supported in getting it in a way that really, truly keeps moving on a healing path. Treatment path is not necessarily the healthiest option, as witnessed by the 250 to 500,000 a year that die of treatment. So, Miss Jeanie, do we have anybody in the phone queue with a hand up? Anything happening in the chat room?
It is all quiet on the home front.
All is quiet on the western front.
Yeah. Someone press 1. You're first in line without waiting. I mean, we'd love to start a conversation that you want to hear, that you want to talk about.
If you're on one of those stations where we can't see you, our call-in number is 563-999-3581. If you're on the show and we haven't heard your voice in a while, let us hear your voice. Push 1. Say hello. Tell us what's happening. Where are you at with your process? What's the work looking like for you in terms of the tool of forgiveness or responsibility communication or the codependence tool or any of the other tools that you're using?
We have the book club day after tomorrow, and we have Mind Shifters this coming Saturday.
And the book club will be at 3:30 now. They've changed times the same as we are. So 3:30 on Thursday afternoon. If you want to join us, you can go to events on our website on whyagain.org. And the Hear My Voice Global Book Club. We're going to go into chapter 1 in the book, Why Is This Happening to Me Again, and do more of an in-depth conversation. We've gone through the book once, but we did basically 3 chapters per session that we did, and then we've done several worksheets with people. And so we're going to take a little different approach and do a chapter by chapter, breaking down the ideas from Why Is This Happening to Me Again. And of course you can download the book free from our website. If you go to whyagain.org, there's a picture of the book in blue and red, and if you click on that picture, you can drill down and download a free copy of the book in one of several languages. And or, we can't sell you a book because it's out of print, but there are enough of them still out there from 30 years ago when we wrote the book and we're marketing it since it's gone out of print. There are enough out there that there are always some available on eBay or on Amazon, used copies. So the book's always available. And as I say, you can download it for free. So grab a copy and join us for the book club on Thursday, the second and fourth Thursday of the month at 3:30 in the afternoon, which the European time, or at least London, England, where the book club is centered, it's 8:30 in the evening there. And there are people from all over the world that join us for that, so you'd certainly be welcome to come and join us. And of course, we have the world's only forgiveness app. You can download it free from your app store. If you go to whichever type of phone you have and type in the words Heartland Aramaic Forgiveness, if you go to that app store, you'll see a picture of a heart and Heartland Aramaic Forgiveness. And you can work with the worksheet process right there in the app. You can have questions from the app. Jeanie's just done an awesome job of developing that. If you go to our YouTube channel, and you can do that by going to our website, whyagain.org, and of course you can spend months on the website and not find every corner. There's over 20,000 pages on the website, and covering just all kinds of topics from every direction. If you look over on the right-hand side, you'll see the social media links, and if you click on the YouTube link, that'll take you to our YouTube channel, or you can just go to YouTube and type in Michael Ryce, MichaelRyce, and you'll be looking at, 100 or so videos. I'd love for you to watch them. Join the YouTube channel, the YouTube videos. That helps us to develop. With the fact that we're not on the road anymore, we're working to monetize the YouTube channel so that it creates some cash flow that replaces what dropped off when we stopped traveling. And the fact that with COVID, Heartland's been closed for the last 3 years, it's kind of put a hole in cash flow. So that's one way you can support us and assist us. And of course, you can pass those video links on to others. You can pass radio shows. The archives are well over 4,000 hours in radio shows from the last 12 years. And so there are lots of ways to access the material. We're doing the best we can to make it available to every mind, heart, and being on the planet. A couple new translations of the book are underway. So that's what's happening in our world. How about yours? Talk to us. Push one. Let's have a conversation. Catch us up on your world, what your process is like, or what questions you have about first century Aramaic forgiveness and the corollary tools. Nobody's talking today.
Apparently. A hand just went up. It's Miss Celinda, 541. You're on the air.
Hello.
Welcome, young lady.
Well, if you keep saying
that long
enough, I will be getting younger, won't I?
Go for it.
I'm
yes,
good.
Ma'am. By the way, you're on my list to call. I was going to call you after the show today. If you're going to be around, I'll be making a quick call to you.
Sounds good. Well,
so what's on your mind today?
I'm really excited that you're writing that article about self-directed healing, and I'm looking forward to it. I've felt that for a really long time, but at the same time, I noticed that this disengaging process is truly a process. because I come and I think, oh, now I've done this. And life says, oh, no, you've just done a piece of it. So onward and upward.
For sure. It is a long-term process. I was talking to someone yesterday, and they were saying, well, at least there was one who was perfect. And they go back to Yeshua, and it's interesting how people can ignore what the man said in order to buy into the beliefs about the man, because he specifically said, when they called him perfect, they said, well, why do you call me perfect? None of us is. And this person was just, as I said that, like I just repeated what the man said, and they were like, oh, no, that can't be. Well, go read his words. Don't take my word for it. That's what he said. Oh, no, he was well, you can believe what you've been told, but in order to believe what you've been told, you have to deny what the man said. Isn't that an interesting state of mind? So
exactly, and that's one of the things I'm very grateful for, that I got a perspective that I finally understood when I decided to take Jesus off the cross. And it was that I was reading his words, because that's where I would gravitate to, the New Testament mostly, and his words specifically. That's why I liked the Bibles that had his words in red. And I realized one day, when I started having an inkling about co-creation, that he co-created his crucifixion. I mean, he had things to learn from my perspective, just reading how he responded to things and how he reacted to things within his short life ministry. And I went, oh, I didn't have at that time the understanding, because I was still coming out of evangelical Christianity. I didn't have the understanding about his choosing that in a previous life. And at the same time, because I was exploring Ekankar, which is kind of a hybrid between Hinduism and Western thinking, I was beginning to explore the possibility of other lives. It just, it's been a long journey to realize, oh, we do create this, and we don't co-create it alone. We co-create it with others who choose to co-create and share this reality with me, and that's my present understanding at the moment. And now I say, when the stone was rolled away and Jesus wasn't there, according to the story, it was all about resurrection. It wasn't about crucifixion. And so that's where my understanding is at the present moment. And hopefully I am working both the physical and the emotional and the mental to where my physical disorders or disorderliness can come into harmony and in alignment with the rest of my being, and align back to North Star. I like to think of North Star in sailing. Yeah. So I'm just ambling here, but you know me, I love images and metaphors.
Sweet. Well, any specific... Go ahead, Jeanie.
I just looked up another verse when you quoted, why do you call me good? There's no one good except God alone. He also said, very truly, I tell you, whoever believes in me will do the works that I've been doing, and they will do even greater things than these. Mm-hmm. So, he was in no way on
opening the space.
Yep.
Exactly. More like an elder brother than a perfect master that everybody wants, that will take care of their lives for them. We'll fix it for them. He's asked people to step up to the plates. And, that one favorite passage of mine where the disciples are asking, well, what do we need to do to make God happy? In essence, that's what they're asking him. And he tells them, and half of the disciples leave saying, too hard a saying. It's like, I don't want to do that work. I don't want to face what's in me. I don't want to deal with that. I want you, the magic man, to fix it for me. So he's inviting people into doing their inner work. And it's not a popular thing because you start thinking about what's gone on in the generations. There's some pretty heavy-duty stuff to be worked through. That's what we're here to support, is the working through of that.
And Michael, I wonder, because I'm having a lot of experience of my arm shaking, my left arm, or even my whole body if I get anxious in some way that I'm not aware of, or when I feel like I have to show up a certain way, or when I want to stand up and speak my truth. That happens a lot. I can notice I can.
Sounds like you've got a nice warning signal that you've noticed that tells you when you've got a piece of work to do.
Right. And I'm just asking you, is that a way that can that also be a way of life helping me release? So rather than seeing it as, oh my God, I'm getting Parkinson, or oh my God, I have this tremors, allowing it and seeing if it isn't a siphoning off of some of those traumatic energies that you're talking about, another way.
I think one of the things we need to be doing, we've been trained through our culture in so much fear. And so something shows up that we would call a symptom, and people start going into the fear game, and fear shuts down blood flow, shuts down the ability to thrive, shuts down higher brain function, and people tend to become stuck in those cycles. And I think that especially we need to discipline ourselves on a mental level so that every time we face something that could take us down the spiral of a fear condition, oh, look at this terrible thing that's happening, instead recognizing that mind energy is cause. The opening words in the book of John don't say in the beginning was the Word and the Word became flesh. They say in the beginning was the mind energy, and the mind energy literally becomes the chemistry in our physiology. And so if every time something happens, something that appears to be untoward happens, we go into a fear-based mind energy, we're literally setting chemistry into physiology that is destructive. And we need to reverse that habit and start to discipline ourselves to tap into and always be ready to upgrade our mind energy, always be ready to be conscious creators, directing the creation in a way other than the culture has directed us. If you look at commerce and the way that commerce works, it's all about how do we get people to move away from what would be natural to them, like grow their own food, and go into commerce, make money, and pay for food. How do we get people to stop taking care of themselves physiologically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and put them into commercial business, spending money, having to earn money, spend money to support the commercial system? And so my take is that we need to discipline our minds, and every time that a fear thought shows up, one, the habit becomes applying forgiveness, and two, the habit becomes upgrading that thought to something constructive, to a conscious creative process that moves us up the ladder rather than down the ladder, because aging is not natural. Aging has become normal, but it's not natural. And we age ourselves when we engage in energetic patterns based in hostility and fear. Does that make sense?
Totally. And brings me to another point. One of the things, I remember my word awfulizing that I used, and I don't think you'd heard it. He said, what is that? it's like angrifying. I don't know where it comes from, but awfulizing is where my mind is programmed to go to right away. So my challenge now, what I'm working with, is catching myself as soon as possible when I'm awfulizing.
Right.
I'm going to
forgiving then.
Yeah, right, and saying, choose again. That's what I really loved about the way of mastery is those magic words. You can choose again, you know.
Yes.
And
change the mind energy.
And the other thing I just noticed just this morning or the past couple of days, a couple of memories have come up. And very often I can feel, on some subtle level, I can feel, actually remember what it felt like to have that emotion. I remember when I was in New Mexico, there was a period of time where I was so enraged at the way they were destroying the earth. And I remember there was a time, and this is when the school shootings were beginning, you know. I remember I can understand someone going in and doing that because I want to run down our road with a submachine gun. You know, that was the feeling. That was the intensity of the rage. And I had to sit with it and acknowledge it and say, and come to a place, and I'm still growing in that area of saying, they don't understand. They don't get it.
So my offering is that you have never been enraged about anything.
Right, that I created.
There's just rage in there.
Right, there's rage in me.
And we can put that rage into our brain's image of anything and say, I'm enraged about this or that or the next thing. But nobody's ever been enraged about anything. They've only been enraged. They hold rage and refuse to be responsible for it. And so the end result of rage turned inward is awfulizing, I think, you know, using that word. And where you want to discipline yourself to go is into healing. Where you're empowered to do the steps to change the creative process in your life, move out of the brainwash of the culture and into a continuous upgrading of your creative process by a continuous upgrading of your thoughts.
And that's sweet, because now that remembering is this little ancient faint echo in that about that situation process. Because and now a couple of things with my first mother-in-law bubbled up, and I realized, okay, you have a choice right here and right now. Do you want to keep holding that thought, or do you want to let it go?
Exactly.
And realize that, oh, she didn't get it. She doesn't understand. Poor thing. You know, not the poor thing of pity, but the way you would treat a little tiny child, or like Louise Hay would say, you take that parent or that person and you imagine them 3 to 5 years old, and you put them in their heart with your 3 to 5 year old person.
Makes a difference.
So,
for sure.
There's so many ways for us to do our forgiveness process. But
there's actually only one way to do. No, there's only one way to do forgiveness. There are other processes that can be helpful, but there's one way to do forgiveness, and that is that if you're in pain perception, your pain perception is being driven by a goal, and the forgiveness process specifically is canceling that goal and allowing that perceptual construct to be collapsed in on itself to expose the underbelly and bring healing to it. let's say we could use a metaphor of transportation. Well, you can take an airplane, you can take a car, you can ride a bicycle, but
Right.
to call all of those things driving in a car would be inaccurate. To call all of the things you can do toward healing to be forgiveness is a misnomer. There is a specific, here's how forgiveness is done. There's a specific mode of transportation. If I'm driving a car, then I'm not flying in an airplane, I'm not riding a bicycle, I'm not walking, I'm not wearing my new running shoes and running, I'm driving in a car. And forgiveness, my take, and the reason I bring this up is because forgiveness has been so misrepresented and misunderstood in the culture that people, reduce it to some nebulous, well, something happened, so I did forgiveness. And it really isn't forgiveness that they've done. So.
Right. So at some point, regardless of the tool I use, I come face to face with myself and my choices and say, I don't like where this goal is taking me. Maybe I need to find another goal.
Right.
And
get rid of this
one.
one.
To do that or not? Am I going to choose something different or not? That's
Yes.
the crux.
Definitely important. Important distinction.
Yep. And thank you for always clarifying. Because I realize that each one of us use languaging, and very often we're saying the same words and speaking a different language, but just as equally often we may be speaking the same language, but using the different words and not understanding each other also.
Right. For sure. Well, I'm with you, young lady. Any other thoughts for you today?
No, I think I'm complete for the moment. I'm still exploring, and I really like the energy processes that use activity, like Qigong or yoga or any of those dance, when it's done with intention for healing or for opening the system to a greater energy flow.
Very powerful.
And so that's another tool. It's really
yes.
like the Avicen or sauna or baths or anything like their exercise. It's like use what works. It's the great smorgasbord, Michael and Jeanie. We have a wonderful smorgasbord in front of us. We don't have to eat it all or any particular dish.
Correct. I'm with you. Sweet. All right,
So
young lady. Well, you have a blessed day, and I'll call you right after the show is complete.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
All right. Blessings. All right, bye-bye.
Blessings. Bye-bye.
All right, Ms. Jeanie, anything on your mind or anybody else in the phone queue with a hand up? Anything happening in the chat room?
We did have a hand go up, and I believe that it is our friend Michael, 770. You're on the air.
Hi, folks. How are you
Hey,
today?
welcome. You've been on my mind today. How do you be?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Y'all been on my mind for some weeks. Glad to hear your voices, and hello to Jeanie.
Hi there. And thank you for the card.
Oh,
yes.
Most welcome and deserving, and yes, good to hear you. Don't get a chance to call in as much as I'd like to, but I'm listening as much as possible. So
awesome.
It's always nice.
What's on your mind for today, sir?
Just calling to say hi and let you know I am still around, still using the Avicen.
What's your experience?
Well.
How are you experiencing that with having just started it?
It is calming for me, for certain.
One of the things
really...
that I think happens, one of the things I think happens with it is that some of the emotional work that we've done but the structure hasn't cleared it physiologically, allows the physiology to make that progress. And so on a physiological level, we gain what we had gained in doing the mental, emotional, spiritual work, but the physiology hadn't caught up. We gained from the physiology catching up with the healing work that we've done. It's like, so it has to happen from both ends of the spectrum. Say again?
It's basically boosting, giving a boost then to the healing work. As I think
exactly.
I mentioned before, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, it's completing what was started. It's like what I'm seeing, what I'm understanding. This is kind of a very recent insight for me, is that I've watched people do their mental, emotional, spiritual work, but they don't do anything to crank up the energy on a physiological level. And, you know, there are several ways that you can get, how to say this, one, to heat the core body temperature and get blood moving through the system, where especially if someone's been in sympathetic dominance, it's become stagnant and therefore encrusted. So again, somebody can go out and run for 3 miles 3 times a day. They can do a sauna. They can 3 times a day. They can do a hot bath 3 times a day, or sit in a hot tub, which most people aren't likely to do. And if they're getting the physiological action that the Avicen gives, then the work they've done mentally, emotionally, spiritually is completed physiologically. But if people aren't doing that, then it's like physiology has difficulty catching up on its own unless it has a concentrated way of processing through the stagnant energies that have been chronic and therefore locked into tissue, have become literally encrusted in tissue. That something extraordinary has to happen physiologically for that to move. And that the Avicen is the easiest, most comfortable way I know to give that level of support and that aspect of what needs to move to get it moving.
I like that, and I'm feeling, real good, and I am using the machine approximately 45 minutes before bed and an hour and 10 minutes in the morning.
Perfect.
It's really, and I find it so relaxing. It's really, really neat. And of course, I'm listening to something during those times. Sometimes this guy named Michael Ryce and others, and it's making great use of the time and letting the body heal.
Well, they've talked about, from the Avicen's perspective, that the current technology now, earlier technology didn't last as long, but that when you get a full treatment moving, the benefits keep moving in the structure for about 8 hours. And so if you're doing last thing at night, then you've got through the night, your physiology's continuing that process. Then first thing in the morning to kick off the day, that's a perfect way to do it.
Wow, that is exciting news. Didn't catch that part before. That's really good.
Yeah.
I'm hoping this noise isn't too much. I am driving, and that's why
you're quiet on your end.
Speak with you right now. I'm sorry?
No, you're fine. We can hear a slight noise in the background once in a while, but it's no interference whatsoever. You're loud and clear.
Okay, great. Wonderful we could connect today. So that is really great news with the Avicen, and I'll keep on schedule. Hardly miss a session. Just
awesome.
Really committed to making the time for it.
The other, a thought comes to mind. I'm not sure we had this conversation, but you know that there are 2 different ways to start the machine, right? One, if you just hit the power button, when you do a treatment and it shuts off. But there's another way to start the machine so it goes into standby mode. Were you aware of that?
No, tell me about that one, please.
Okay. So the other way to start it, like for instance, in the morning, we turn ours off at night, but in the morning when we turn our machine on, it's on all day. So if either one of us can get just 10 minutes, it takes about 10 minutes to get the whole volume of blood through the body warmed up by that 1 degree and have the impact that it has. So, but if you have to wait 4 or 5 minutes for it to warm up, then you're not as likely to use it. But if you just got 10 minutes, so in the morning when we start our machine, you hit the right center button. On the right hand side there are the 5 buttons. There's one in the center. You push and hold that center button, then you push the power button, holding them both down, and let them both go at the same time. Now when you do a treatment, the machine will go into standby mode rather than shut off.
Oh, okay.
And then when you come back, the pad's warm. It takes 3 or 4 cents worth of electricity to run it for a day, and so, but the machine's always there. So if you've got just 10 minutes, you can pop your hand in it, start it, and go. You don't have to wait for it to warm up.
Awesome. Good to know.
Cool.
Good to know.
All right, sir. Well, anything else exciting in your world?
No, lots of planting, lots of keeping busy, and springs, this year.
Well, we're doing lots of prep for planting. We're not as far ahead with temperature as you are way down there in Texas. So we've got another few weeks before our final frost, so we haven't completed any or much planting process. We're actually working on blueberries, out at the Dad's farm. He had some really nice blueberry bushes, so this past week we dug them up. There was nobody there taking care of them, and we dug them up and brought them back, and we're actually transplanting them today. We've been creating a mix to create some acidic soil for them, and so that's part of our plan for this afternoon, is getting the blueberry bushes in, and then we've got about 4 weeks before our final, possible frost date or average frost date. So we're getting everything ready, expanding compost piles, and been working on that this morning.
So you look at in that area about the first part of May before you're putting anything in the ground? Yes.
Well, before anything is sensitive to a freeze. Yeah.
Sensitive, yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
We're in zone 5B or 6B. You're probably in something like zone 8 down there, are you?
I'm not even sure. I want to say 7, but that's just off the top of my head. I've seen the chart, but I'm not recalling.
Yeah.
And that's real neat about the blueberry bushes, that you could transfer those. And
looking forward to lots of blueberries this year. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a wonderful deal.
All right, sir. Well, you have a blessed day.
Thank you. You all too. Glad to connect.
All right. Take care. Blessings. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Blessings. Bye.
Well, Miss Jeanie, we're down to about 5 minutes. So we got time for one more quick call. Call-in numbers 5. If you're on one of those stations where we can't see you, call-in numbers 563-999-3581. If you call that number, you'll be listening to the show directly on your phone. And then if you push 1, they'll raise a hand in the control panel, and we can have a conversation. So push 1. Let's talk. What's on your mind? How do you be? Any thoughts moving for you, Jeanie? Anything to share?
No. It's just, been so busy and trying to get things settled after Dad's passing, and just being able to breathe through it and take it day at a time. Try to stay centered, and I've used the Avicen a lot in the last few weeks.
I was just about to say that it's been nice to watch you and with all the stress that's been going on, that you've been taking deeper and more care of yourself, and it's awesome. And taking intermissions where you previously would go, that you're stopping and you just saying, I'm going to lay down and I'm going to put my hand in there and I'm going to rest and take care of me. So it's awesome that you're doing more and more of that.
And, perhaps there's some work I need to do on it, because it's not a conscious thought that I'm going to take care of me. It's that, like, I have zero energy and it's no desire to do anything.
Well, honey, you've been handling so many things with your dad's passing, before he passed. You've been handling so many things. The baby, I mean, it's been not our baby for any listeners, but our granddaughter. We keep trying to have another one, but it hasn't worked yet.
We had a hand just go up. Let's change the subject here.
Let's go for it.
Area
coward.
Area code 916. You're on the air.
I just wanted to say thank you, Dr. Ryce, for all that you're doing to help so many people, and that you're bringing this technology forward and also helping people to heal the emotional component. That's such a key piece to healing. I just wanted to say thank you.
Oh, well, thank you for saying thank you. I appreciate it. Sending blessings.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Blessings. Take care. Bye-bye. All right. Well, Miss Jeanie, I think we're down to about the closeout hour. If anybody's wanting to do Heartland, we're still on the cusp of whether or not we're going to open Heartland this summer. And so if you're interested in doing something residential with us in the Ozarks in southern Missouri, then drop Jeanie a note, JEANIE at WHYagain.org. And if you drop her a note, make sure you put your phone number in there and what you're interested in. We're looking at the possibility of doing a 16-day food fund forgiveness and work program, which involves, it's kind of an economy program for getting the property upgraded and ready for a season, and includes some awesome food, time to learn about real honest-to-God food in the kitchen, and preparation and forgiveness and work, real-time work projects, so we get to cover it all. And we're looking at perhaps doing a 9-day Why Is This Happening to Me Again, and or perhaps a teacher training. So if you're interested in any of that, let us know. That will help us to make the decision as we move forward, now that we're clear of all of the stressors that have been going on in these last few weeks. Then we'll be getting our minds toward what we can do in that regard. So let us know what your desires are. And in the meantime, have the best year yet of your eternal life. It's an awesome gift to give the world. The world certainly needs it, and you have the power to give it. Blessings. Thank you. Bye-bye.